Hi, Sierra Kinney. Did you ever notice that the third Monday of January is a day off from school? Have you ever wondered why? Some may know that it's to celebrate the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but I think it's time we learn a little bit more about who he was and why he's so celebrated.
Before we start talking about Martin Luther King Jr., it's important to understand what activism is. Well, in activism, the word active is there, so does that mean getting my 10,000 steps a day?
Being active is important, but that's not quite the definition. Activism is any action designed to bring change in a society. It can be a small change in your neighborhood, a bigger change in your city or state, or even a change that affects the entire country or world.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. So if that's activism, what's an activist?
An activist is anyone who feels passionately about something and works to learn more, raise awareness for others, and bring change. Any one of you watching could be an activist.
You might be wondering why we're talking about activism if this video is supposed to be about Martin Luther King Jr. The answer is simple. Martin Luther King Jr. was an activist during the civil rights movement who worked tirelessly for the rights of all people and hoped for a world where race would not impact a person's rights.
Before we tell you more about what Martin Luther King Jr. did in our country and all over the world, it's important to know where he came from. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. He was a gifted student and graduated high school at 15 years old. He attended Morehouse College and received his degree, then went on to do 3 years of study in Pennsylvania. He was greatly influenced by his father, who was also a pastor. During this time, he met and married Ketta Scott. After he received his degree to be called Reverend Dr. King, together they moved to Montgomery, Alabama, where he became a pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. And that's where things get interesting.
Civil rights are guarantees of equal opportunities and protection under the law no matter who you are. But in the 1950s and 60s in the United States, there were different rights based off the color of your skin. For example, there were different restaurants, bathrooms, schools, and even water fountains that you couldn't drink off based off the color of your skin. Imagine someone telling you it was illegal for you to drink at their fountain.
Sounds crazy, doesn't it? That's why the civil rights movement was organized to fight for the equality and rights of all people.
So let's get back to Dr. King. Soon after, he and Ketta moved to Alabama. Rosa Parks, a name that might sound familiar, was arrested. Why, you ask? Because she did not give her seat to a white man on a bus. These are the problems that we're talking about at this time. Any white passenger could walk up to a person of color and ask for their seat. When Rosa Parks refused to, she was arrested.
Dr. King became involved in the civil rights movement when he became the leader of the bus boycott. He used the basement of his church to host meetings to the community to plan and organize to boycott the buses. Black people in Alabama will not ride the buses until the unfair law is changed.
During the boycott, the bus companies lost 30,000 to 40,000 tickets each day due to black people not riding the bus. The bus boycott was a success for several reasons. First, the city agreed that no one should give up their seat based on the color of their skin. The second success was making a big change without using violence. Just as Dr. King hoped, the boycott was a peaceful way to protest or argue against a law they wanted to change.
The idea of peaceful protest is a form of civil disobedience. This concept was introduced to Dr. King by Mordecai Johnson. Dr. King was inspired by Mordecai Johnson after hearing him speak in Philadelphia. Johnson spoke passionately of another civil rights leader from India, Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi, a lawyer, led social change in India through nonviolent and peaceful protests, which became civil disobedience. King was so moved by the way Johnson spoke, Gandhi influenced how he wanted to lead the civil rights movement in America.
Another example of civil disobedience during the civil rights movement was a sit-in. One of the most famous being the Greensboro sit-in. The sit-in began on February 1st, 1960, when 4 colored students sat at a whites-only counter refusing to leave until they were served. In the days that followed, hundreds of people joined the sit-in, sitting peacefully at counters. When protesters were arrested, the sit-in became a boycott until those 4 students were served.
Organized protests have become some of the most visible and memorable acts of civil disobedience. King's belief was that no matter what violence protesters encountered along the way, their goal remained the same. The only way to achieve change is through peaceful protest.
In 1963, he started working with others to organize over 250,000 people to attend the March on Washington, where they peacefully protested for civil and economic rights for Black Americans. During this march is where he gave his famous I Have a Dream speech.
where he spoke about peace and equality and what he dreamt for the United States. This speech, along with many others, were inspired by one of his greatest mentors, Benjamin Mays. Mays was president at Morehouse College when King attended. Dr. King regarded Mays as an intellectual teacher and spiritual father. Mays gave the introductory prayer before the I Have a Dream speech at the March on Washington.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Later in 1964, partially due to the success on the March of Washington, President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, which was meant to eliminate all legalized racial segregation in the United States. Despite these gains, Black Americans still experience prejudice in their daily lives.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches are some of the most important writings in the English language. His work has taught people of all races and cultures and is being studied by many teachers and students all over the world.
Because of his leadership, the Civil Rights Movement opened doors to new education and employment opportunities that had not existed before to African Americans in the United States.
In 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill making the third Monday of January Martin Luther King Jr. Day. He is the only non-president to have a national holiday dedicated to celebrating his life and work.
The work and words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. created an atmosphere of change that inspired many other people to become activists. One of those was his wife, Ketta Scott King.
Ketta Scott King may have been known as Martin Luther King's wife and mother of their 4 children, but she was also a huge and important part of the Civil Rights Movement. She spoke out at churches, colleges, and peace groups, and having been trained as a musician and singer, she even performed at freedom concerts.
After Dr. King's death in 1968, Ketta Scott made sure that his work continued. She did not only speak about racial, but economic justice, women's rights, children's rights, and the rights of anybody no matter who they are. Many others have worked to carry on the legacy of Dr. King. At Sierra Canyon, we not only strive to carry on that legacy, but live it every day. Part of our mission statement at Sierra Canyon is to be an empowering environment in which students realize their greatest creative, intellectual, ethical, and physical promise. On the lower campus, we focus on the Big 4 character values: responsibility, kindness, respect, and honesty. We want us to remember that intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. At Sierra Canyon, we live these words with as strong a focus on who we're becoming as what we are learning. Our Big 4 character assemblies, our classroom morning meetings, and our school-wide service learning opportunities work to ensure we are growing as students and kind people. There is no gain without struggle. The major problem of life is learning how to handle the costly interruptions, the door that slams shut, the plan that got sidetracked, or that lovely poem that didn't get written because someone knocked on the door. At Sierra Canyon and anywhere really, striving for excellence is never easy. As trailblazers, we learn to persevere no matter the circumstance. We are taught the responsibility of proper study skills and using planners as early as 3rd grade. Our parents and teachers help us manage our time and prepare for what's ahead. When we stumble or forget, our teachers help us get back on track, staying in with us at recess, meeting before or after school, and answering emails. We persevere together. As a community, none of us are in it alone.
Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Sierra Canyon provides many opportunities to discover who we want to be. We can choose between many after-school classes. As we get older, we can choose a new sport each season in PE. We can even run for student council and help lead our school. We're encouraged to speak up, speak out, and make a difference by creating a club or suggesting a charity to contribute to. We are taught to respect ourselves and empowered to believe we can make changes because we know our teachers, coaches, and parents have faith in us. We are trailblazers and we make our own paths.
The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Life is not always fair, people are not always kind, but in every interaction we have the choice to do what's right. At Sierra Canyon, we are taught to be honest about words and actions. We learn that in every mistake there is an opportunity to learn and do better. We understand that forgiveness, kindness, and patience are necessary habits. Most importantly, we are taught that each of our voices are unique and powerful and must be used to do what is right, even when nobody is looking.
As one student, it's hard to imagine how you can make a profound change, but that's one of the biggest lessons that we can learn from Dr. King. One person, one voice, can make a change felt all around the world. A legacy is how we live on through the differences we make. What we have learned from Dr. King and here at Sierra Canyon is that we all have the power to make a world of difference.
If we look around us today, we can see many changes that still need to take place, but we remember Dr. King and his dream. A dream is full of hope, and we hope that you are inspired to be an active part of change for good.
On behalf of Sierra Canyon, we, the Legacy Class of 2030, say thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.